Production.
What is poppin'? We're around mid-June here, 2023, and we're looking at Glxy Digital Holdings. So the past 2 weeks, we've had several red days, right? So you could look at it from mid-May, about a month ago, down to last week. We went down around 32% from the top that we made mid-May to the bottom that we made mid-June. Now, this is why I like looking at technical analysis, because if you're strictly looking at, oh my God, this stock went down 32%, the average investor will likely that could cause them to sell if they did buy at a decent price. I don't really care about the 32% down. I'm more looking at a broader picture play, right? I'm imagining that this is, again, we're in a cycle here, and you got to pay attention to the cycle. So when you're looking at it from a log perspective, we had our bottom of the wave one, we push up, make a massive high, and took around 2 years to consolidate. We're now at a new low that is higher than the previous low 3 years ago. Okay, that's major. That's telling you that the demand is rising. So if you're looking for a longer term play and you're thinking out into mid to late 2024 or 2025, this could be a play that, really extends itself. So when we use the Fibonacci extension tool and we just basic low to high to our furthest pullback point, our first golden pocket target is around that $68 range, right? So if you're looking at buying shares at $4 and you're thinking longer term, you do have a lot larger ROI than you were if you're thinking short term. And again, that's not really the outlook I'm kind of seeing things from. What I'm looking at here, again, if you want to look at the technical analysis, right? Sure, technically, depending on how you draw your trend line, right, we broke below. But you could draw it a multitude of different ways that fits your eye or your bias. You can go through simple touches, right, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 touches of that trend line, including the wicks, right? You could literally go to the exact point and only touch the wicks, and then it has 1, 2, 3 touches, right? It really depends on what your bias is. So I wouldn't trip too hard looking at a trend line getting broke from that perspective. You could just readjust it. Aside from that, a more solid technical tool to use is the horizontal lines, right? If we're looking at straight up supply, demand, support or resistance levels, you want to look at horizontal lines. Those will give you a lot stronger points to target, right? And if you're doing that and you point out this zone right here that clearly has the most confluence and the most touches, that you could use that range as your support. And we still do bounce off of that range, right? So we spend from November to January developing in this zone, and we've revisited it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and it's held as support. You could use that as a stronger technical tool, if you see what I'm saying, right? So I'm still bullish on the name. Obviously, the space itself is in a very interesting spot, and why I say that, especially if we're looking at BTC, right? The BlackRock ETF or trust, right? If that gets accepted and it comes through and that becomes a thing, that will rise the tide of all the boats in the crypto space. So I do think that is bullish. Something I don't want to miss is I do think there could be a potential where if we're looking at institutional investors and where they want to put their money in, they might choose that BlackRock trust or ETF over a Glxy, over a MicroStrategy, right? Now, I could have a faltered thought on that. Some people might be like, dude, you're completely wrong. That's fine. You could tell me in the comments why you think I'm wrong. But I just want to I don't want to rule that out. I want to have an open mind. That being said, Glxy is still a very interesting technical play that we can't really ignore. And it's clear now that as we're developing this stronger base, right? Because if you really do look at it, we're still creating higher highs and higher lows leading up into this major resistance point at around $5.75. So the name itself, right, still very bullish. Just because we went down 32% really doesn't mean shit, in my opinion, in the past couple weeks or month, right? So we could look at it like this, right? We're still creating higher lows, getting closer to this supply zone. And as we weaken this supply zone, we will eventually get a large burst that rises up to the next resistance or supply zone, right? So now when we're looking at this and we look at the weekly time frame and we look at the volume profile, which is telling us where the most amount of buyers has been in the past, let's look at, right? It's going back to 2020, 2019. If we do look at that, this zone right here, $5.40, is marking out that this is the zone where we've had the most amount of buyers. Okay, so once we get above that, as you can see, the resistance in the supply really weakens, which gives us the opportunity to really get moving once we do break this zone, and it might take some time. So don't sleep on this name. Like, that's the worst time to sleep on this shit is now. So that's the breakdown of Glxy here. Easy.